In this series,
Just drive all the way to the rainbow's end. Just drive, and we'll never turn our backs again. So this is how we end up. The game is set to play. Every day remains the same now. One decision we obey. I just wanna climb on top of a hill and throw it all
basically up the
away. Take me far away before my mind spins off and I am all derailed. Just drive all the way to the rainbow's end. Just drive, and we'll never turn our backs again. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive.
welcome to Namibia in Africa, or Southern Africa. How did I end up here? Well, when I was in the Himalayas, I bumped into Jodie McDonald, the National Geographic photographer, and she said, if you're going to Africa, Namibia is probably the best place to enter, as it's safe, easy to get around sort of thing, and stunningly beautiful with great trails. So I started to do some research, and I was watching a video when a message came through from a guy named Murray, who is Australian but has been living here for 20 years. And he said, have you ever thought about riding through Namibia? And I was like, yes, yes I have. So he was kind enough to give me some contacts, and he gave me a contact of a guy named Chris who runs Namibia Motorcycles. And Chris reached out and just said, hey, if you ever need any help, let me know. So I got myself sorted and got over to Namibia. And Murray had kindly offered for me to stay with him the first night. He was actually on a trip in South Africa and got held up, so couldn't make it back in time. So I reached back out to Chris, and he happened to be with a guy, Elaine, who is also an adventure bike rider on a Royal Enfield Himalayan, and he has some lodges around the Namibia. So he kindly offered for me to stay at one of his places the first night, and then said, well, why don't you start a few of our other lodges we've got? It's called Gondwana. So I went, thanked him very much. So I have got my camp gear here, so I'm going to camp a lot of spots too, and then where some of the lodges are, I'll stay there because they're in some quite unique and stunning areas. So should be a good trip. The motorbike I'm riding, well, Royal Enfield were trying to get me a 450 here, but there were none in the country yet, and let's just say Africa, it can take a while for things to happen. So as Chris has got Namibia Motorcycles, he's got a few 411s that are available, and he's kindly lent me one of his. And for this type of terrain and conditions, something really reliable, because there is quite some remote areas, is perfect. And well, I still have my 411, so I love it. So to catch you up, I'd left the hotel in Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, early in the morning, heading out of town, firstly towards the east, and then to the south. There is a main sealed highway heading south, but that might get a bit boring, as only 10% of roads are sealed in Namibia, and I'd prefer to be riding off-road. I was going to take another route, which was longer, but would take me to the dirt. I reached a small settlement where the first dirt track began, and also the corrugation on the road. I passed some seemingly wild horses in the middle of nowhere. I continued along the track, which led me to the spot you first found me. So I'm going to continue south through the Kalahari desert, which is very green. It just seems weird saying a desert. The lodge is probably about 200 kilometres left along a dirt track. Just got to watch out, some of the sand has been washed because of all the rain over the track. So they've just told me if you get these red patches of the sand, just take it a little easier. It's right at the end of the wet season, so there shouldn't be any rain. It's actually been late this rain this year, so we'll find out what's out there. I was riding along the edge of the Kalahari Desert, which covers large areas of Namibia, Botswana, and into South Africa. I was expecting to see only the browns, oranges, and sand colours of the desert. After 4 years since any real rain, and nearly a decade since they've had good rain, the drought had broken this wet season. Normally, most of the heavy rain falls in January and February, but this year it had come a little later in March. There were a lot of vultures in the air, which means there must have been a decent sized animal carcass on the ground nearby. Came across what looked like my first wildlife, and by the shape of the horns on the large one, it looks like a kudu. I made it to another turn, which had a small torrent in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Every dirt road is made up of different dirts, soils, and or sand. Not being the most skilled rider, I always take it a little easier when I get to a change in the surface, until I get the feel of it. I was riding over long ridge sand dunes, which are formed due to the wind blowing predominantly in one direction, like I found in the mid-north of Western Australia. Just a quick stop to get some water, as it is a desert, so I've got to keep the water up. It's a dry heat, so it's not too bad. I'm guessing it's 34, 35 degrees. And I'm also just getting used to the bike constantly moving under me on the gravel again. Just eventually get used to it. So yeah, it's not too bad though, it's not deep. I'm sure there'll be sections where it'll get very sandy and very deep. Alright, I've probably got just under 100 kilometres to go for the first day of riding. I rode through a small town, which had some donkeys, and felt like it was in the middle of nowhere. I then made a turn onto a different road. This one had seen some recent rain. It had some mud holes, and it looked like that sticky kind that sticks to your tyres and turns them into slicks. And as if on cue, the bike went down. The tyre tread had filled up with mud. It came to rest on the pannier, so I picked it up and tried to keep the front wheel heading straight until I could get through the mud. There were sections of dry road, then patches of wet where you can see the water from the rain had run across the road. The vehicle tracks looked a bit boggy on the left-hand side, so I stuck to the right. Being in the middle of nowhere and not having seen a vehicle all day, I thought it best to check the depth. Although it had about 6 inches of slimy mud under the water, it shouldn't be a hassle. This one didn't look like I needed to check it, so through I went. Although it was a little boggy. Made it to my first stop on this journey, the Anib Lodge.
Hello. Checking in? Yes.
It was about 3k along this sandy track. They do have campsites here, as well as the lodges. I've just checked in and this is the Gondwana room. Now it feels like the Kalahari desert. We've lost the green, we've got the ochre colour. And it's a beautiful place. There's 2 pools and most importantly, we have air conditioning as it's got even hotter. I think it's about 3 p.m. now. I'm just going to turn it on and just stand under it for the next 5 minutes. I had a quick look outside. The staff here said they've got a little, what's called a sundowner. It's basically a drink in the evening. I'll explain that later. But there's a little drive around to have a look at, see if there's any animals around. So I thought I'd jump aboard.
I will be a driver.
My guide, Silas, shared information about the flora and fauna.
This tree, we call it a shepherd tree.
There were marabou storks, sociable weavers, which are the birds that build these giant nests. It's like an apartment block. There can be hundreds of birds. Springbok, plain zebras. The other kind in Namibia is the mountain zebra. We came across a tortoise who was trying to make a run for it. I saw my first oryx, which is the national animal of Namibia. There was a jackal. Then we came across this rather tall guy who was munching on some leaves. We got to a spot to have a drink and watch the sunset, although the clouds were making that difficult. We drove back through the dunes in the dark, spotting the occasional animal. Then we made it back to the lodge and straight into dinner. And yes, the food was really good. And you could still see wildlife while eating dinner. First day done on the bike in Namibia. And it ended up being quite a long day with the little drive at the end there. Don't know if you can see over my shoulder, there is a lot of thunder and lightning and looks like it's going to rain quite a bit. So that may change tomorrow's plan. I was going to go down a track that Chris had mentioned that goes along a river, but after today coming across some water, and I think they said it had rained 2 or 3 days ago, so that might not be the best option going along a river where all the water runs down into. Going to have a look at some alternatives. There is a highway that will get me to roughly where I'm heading, basically down towards the South African border. There's a couple of canyons and rivers down there that look quite interesting. There was a bit more thunder and lightning. Then it rained most of the night. I got up early to the desert view. Then quickly got my stuff sorted and got on to the bike. I made my way back out along the sandy track, which was a lot easier riding after the rain had firmed it up.
Thank you, sir.
I headed out onto the road with some pockets of rain still around. A quick stop for fuel. I'm gathering that sign means no hitchhiking along this road. Morning. Well, after last night's rain, we've decided to miss the riverbed and we're going to continue down this major, I think it's a major highway, it's a B1. But good news, the weather for the rest of the week looks like, or the next 2 weeks looks like it's sunny, so I've only just got the end of the rain, but nothing too bad. As I was coming out this first section on the side of the road, there's several feet of water and you can see all the edges are very muddy and soft. So although it's fun in the mud, by myself it could get way more interesting than I'm ready for right at the beginning of the trip. So right now, as I head down to this, there's a town about 200 kilometers away, or 220. There is some sort of mountain or volcano. I gather it's extinct, but off the side. So I might go in there, test the dirt. Hopefully it's not too muddy, and check that out. There was rain to the north, but it looked clear to the south in the direction I was heading. I turned off the main highway to a dirt road that looked like it would take me to the extinct volcano. I came to a section of the track that had been beefed up with large rocks. Hopefully that was a good sign that the road had been maintained. Then past a small sand mining facility. There were a few small dips in the road where the flowing water had left sand, but as they were so short, when I rode over them, you didn't even notice it. But then I came to a section that had that thick, sticky mud. So again, as I was riding solo, I did the sensible thing and got off and checked. The slimy, slippery mud was under the water as well, so the rocks looked like the best way through. You can see it's just the top couple of inches, but enough mud to turn your tyres into slicks and have absolutely no grip. I just needed to sneak up the side of this one. This one looked a bit more substantial. So, once again, off the bike to see if I could get around it. But from looking at it, my chances weren't good. I slipped down the bank. It was a few feet deep. Well, that one's more like a river than a water crossing. I went a bit further up and it just got, it's probably about 6 inches of that slimy mud underneath, and then it's over my boots. So there is actually another way. It looks a lot easier. It's direct onto the south side of the volcano mountain. So I think I might just turn around this time and go that way. All good, bit of fun, bit of dirt. Always good to get onto the dirt. Does look like a river from here. So I turned the bike around and headed back the way I'd come. It was a lot quicker back as I could just follow my tyre tracks. Now this is where it got super slippery as the tyre treads filled with mud. After passing through the mud, I gave it a bit of time for the mud to flick out before getting on with it. I got back to the highway. This is one of the main highways in the country. And well, as you can see, there's not a lot of traffic. The reason? Namibia is one of the least populated countries in the world. It wasn't long before I made the turn off to the south side of the mountain. This is the Fish River, which I'll be checking out later, further downstream, as it cuts through the landscape, creating a pretty impressive canyon. I got my first decent look at the Volcanos mountain. road towards the mountain, it seemed to rise in front of me. I got to an abandoned gate, so I rode through. The road turned into a narrow track, and quite a rough one at that. I followed the track as it wound its way further up the mountain. The track had lots of washed out sections and looked like it hadn't been maintained for years. Although it looks like an impact crater, it isn't. Also, it isn't a typical volcano, as this was formed in the one event. It does look like a volcanic caldera, which is the top of the volcano falling into the empty lava chamber. But this is one of the planet's largest tuff rings, caused from the eruption over 77 million years ago. The rim is 3.3 kilometres at its widest point, and it rises 610 metres from the level of the surrounding desert. Seems I made it to the end of the track, and what a fun track it was. That was a surprise. A lot more comfortable on rocks than in the slippery, slimy mud. There's some old abandoned buildings here that seem to have been worn down over time, and I don't know, maybe there's some camping here too. Seen some fireplaces. Did have one little mishap on the way in. I didn't see a star picket as I went around a corner, and I have ripped my pannier, so I'm going to have to somehow work out how to keep it together. I dug into my spares and bits and pieces box and found a spare strap. Oh well, we'll see how that patch job goes. If it makes it down that hill, it'll be doing pretty well. Better check it at the bottom.
Oh my love.
In the next episode, my campsite gets hit by a storm. I check out the second biggest canyon in the world, hang out with some more local wildlife, navigate some water crossings, watch a desert sunset, and sleep amongst the boulders under the Southern Cross.
No, my love, don't worry about the cold just yet.